Have you ever wondered what spiritual awakening truly is? How to describe something felt before it's fully understood, something that unfolds within us as a soft and silent revelation. There is a moment, or perhaps a series of moments, when our perception expands beyond the usual, opening us to an intimate and profound horizon that reveals what was once invisible. This awakening is like an inner dawn, where our awareness becomes clearer, and suddenly the world, our emotions, and even ourselves appear in a new light. To awaken spiritually is to begin seeing life without the filters we've accumulated over time, setting aside the masks we crafted to survive. Although awakening might seem like a destination, it's actually a process, an ongoing journey of discovery and rediscovery. It isn't a final point of arrival but a dance between depth and simplicity, where each step reveals a new dimension. Sometimes we may wonder, am I really awakening? How will I know if this is real? Soon, we realize that spiritual awakening isn't meant to be understood as a puzzle to solve but felt as a truth that grows and branches within. I invite you to embark on this journey of awareness, understanding that, in spiritual awakening, the path is as precious as the destination. Modern routines envelop us like a persistent fog. Every morning we're plunged into a flood of obligations, screens, notifications, and before we even have time to breathe, the mind is already tangled in the noisy frenzy of the world. This mind, so filled with thoughts and distractions, becomes a real noise machine, constantly repeating ideas and desires like an endlessly spinning wheel. Being present in this chaos may seem almost impossible, yet, it's precisely amid this noise that spiritual awakening seeks to make its subtle voice heard. How can we resist the loud sound of rush and duties? How can we find clarity in the confusion that often fills our days? The answer isn't in trying to escape but in diving deeper. Small pauses, moments of silence and breath, are like drops of serenity we can integrate into our routine. It's as though, with each pause, we momentarily switch off the noise machine, creating space for clarity that is always available but often drowned out by the volume of modern life. These simple, subtle practices are portals to presence. Through them, we discover that it's possible to silence the gears of the mind, even if just for a moment, allowing a new kind of perception to arise. Instead of battling the noise, we learn to coexist with it, and in this, a sense of peace and presence becomes part of us. After all, have you noticed how silence is not the absence of sound but the presence of something deep and tranquil? These small pauses show us that even amid turmoil, it's possible to hear this inner serenity that whispers the way back home. How many times have we encountered emotions so intense that they seem to overpower us? Anger that arises like a storm, fear that paralyzes us, joy that fills us like an explosion of light. In each of these experiences, we are led to believe that we are these emotions, that they define us in each moment. But what if, instead of seeing emotions as barriers, we saw them as portals? Each emotion we feel is a messenger revealing something about us. Anger, for instance, might show where we set our boundaries. Fear may highlight our insecurities. Joy can remind us of the beauty of presence. When we allow these emotions to be fully felt without wanting to reject or cling to them, we create a space of awareness where they can freely express and dissolve. In this way, they stop being walls that imprison us and become passages to something deeper within. It takes courage to observe our emotions honestly because it means confronting what we might prefer to hide. Sometimes, it's like looking directly into a mirror that reveals all our nuances, both the ones we cherish and those that disturb us. Rather than resisting, we allow emotions to guide us into layers of the mind that were previously hidden. Through this, we approach a truer understanding of who we really are. This brings up a question. Could our emotions be here precisely to remind us how much we still have to learn about ourselves? Embracing emotions as messengers makes us more present, and this state of presence transforms what once felt like an inner storm into a gentle dance between mind and heart. In the midst of it all, we begin to see that every emotion is, in fact, an opportunity for awakening. Our body is a silent universe, holding secrets and ancient wisdoms, but we're often so absorbed in thought that we forget to listen to the temple that sustains us. Yet, it's within the body, with its sensations, tensions, and subtleties, that we find the truest bridge to the present. The body never leaves the present moment. It breathes, pulses, and feels, always profoundly connected to the now. Imagine the body as a sacred temple that has held us since our first moments, a place where we can access our simplest truths. Each breath, each heartbeat reminds us that we are here at the exact point where life unfolds. By reconnecting with it, we anchor our consciousness in the present, becoming more attuned to the flow of life. Feeling our feet on the ground, sensing the rhythm of breath, observing accumulated tensions. These small gestures invite us to return, to fully inhabit our being. A profound peace arises when we surrender to the physical experience of simply existing, without the need to understand or name what we feel. This body awareness is not only a state of presence but one of silent gratitude. After all, our body is the only home we carry from the start to the end of our journey. When we honor it, we stop seeing it as just a tool and start viewing it as an integral part of our awareness, a faithful companion connecting us to the world. As we tune into the body, we learn to listen to its unique language, and through this process, we also learn to listen to ourselves. Have you ever paused to reflect on what your body is trying to communicate? By cultivating this deep listening, we realize that spiritual awakening is, to a large extent, an act of fully re-inhabiting the body, of reconnecting with the sacred pulse in every cell. When we meet others, in a way we meet ourselves. Each person who crosses our path is like a mirror, reflecting parts of us, some we recognize, others we may not yet understand. But what does it really mean to be present with someone? How do we listen with the soul, allowing the other's words to reach us without the barrier of our interpretations, judgments, and desires? Practicing presence in relationships is like a silent field where empathy flourishes. When we dedicate ourselves to being truly present with someone, we're allowing ourselves to see beyond appearances, masks, and stories they carry. Attentive listening, open presence, serene energy, these are doors to an authentic connection where there is no need to interpret or react, only to be. This transforms the encounter into a gentle dance between two souls meeting in total acceptance. Perhaps you've noticed the difference when listening to someone with an open heart. In these moments, words become secondary, and what remains is the sense of deep understanding, a bond that surpasses any definition. It's as if, by letting go of the desire to respond, we enter a state of pure presence, perceiving the person before us in all their humanity. And thus, spiritual awakening unfolds in our relationships with others. True presence becomes an act of compassion, where we are willing to see and be seen, to touch and be touched by the essence of another. We might ask, could the purpose of our closest relationships be to help us awaken, to become more conscious and more human? As this quality of presence infuses our relationships, each interaction becomes an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. In others, we recognize a reflection of our own consciousness, and love transforms from a fleeting feeling into a lasting state of openness and understanding. Imagine the mind as a vast, free, open space where thoughts come and go like passing clouds, never filling the sky entirely. In this view, the mind isn't a prison of ideas or identity but an infinite field of possibilities, a place where we can simply be, without hurry, without the need to define or explain. As we deepen into this state, a subtle, liberating understanding arises, the comprehension of the non-self. The concept of non-self is the essence of many spiritual traditions. It invites us to experience life without the constant need to identify with the ego, that mental construct that tells us we are fixed, a rigid set of qualities, memories, and desires. But what if we aren't this self full of beliefs and stories? What if, instead of being bound by who we think we are, we could free ourselves and see the world through a broader, more generous lens? As we distance ourselves from the ego's limitations, a sense of lightness emerges. It's like releasing the weight of an armor we carried unnecessarily. We no longer need to defend a fixed identity or an image we built of ourselves. Instead, we begin to see ourselves as an ever-evolving consciousness, fluid and adaptable, like a river molding along its course without ever losing its essence. This openness is an invitation to experience the world without the chains of a separate self. The mind becomes a space where everything can be observed without resistance, where there's no need to control or define. And with this, a deep question resonates. Who are we truly when we free ourselves from the constraints of identity? When contemplating the concept of non-self, we find the freedom that arises as we become observers of ourselves, experiencing the mind as a vast and empty space, a reflection of our truest and limitless nature. It is within this emptiness, this field of presence and peace, that awakening begins to blossom, like a flower in the fertile soil of silence. Our identity is like a flowing river, always moving, always changing, yet carrying within it the essence of continuity. But often we forget this natural fluidity and cling to the idea of a fixed self, a solid identity, a collection of labels and definitions that we try to uphold every day. Are we merely these labels we accumulate over time, or is there something deeper, something that transcends words and descriptions? Spiritual awakening invites us to see our identity more flexibly, as energy that flows and adapts rather than a rigid form. Just as a river flows around stones, adjusts to terrain, and changes in color and depth, our self is also mutable, shaped by experiences but never losing its essence. Each moment is an opportunity for transformation, and by allowing this flexibility, we discover we don't have to be the same self as yesterday. We don't need to carry the weight of past stories or future expectations. This view of identity as something fluid sets us free. Suddenly, we don't need to define ourselves precisely, nor hold ourselves to an idea of who we think we must be. Instead, we accept that we are a continuous process, a dance of perceptions and feelings unfolding each moment. In doing so, we become kinder to ourselves, more open to the mystery that resides within each of us. Were we really? This question accompanies us throughout life, but perhaps it isn't meant to be answered in any absolute way. Maybe what defines us isn't a fixed answer but the very curiosity that drives us to seek, to live, and to explore the vastness of who we can become. After all, isn't it in the fluidity of the self that we find true freedom? It is in this ever-changing space that, paradoxically, we come closer to the essence that never fades, the essence that pulses, calm and silent, within each of us. There are moments when, in a brief glimpse, we feel that everything around us is part of something greater, something vast and indescribable. This feeling of unity, of interconnection with all that lives and breathes, takes us to a state of universal consciousness, where the boundary between self and other begins to dissolve. Suddenly, we realize that the tree, the river, the stars, and even the people we cross paths with are not separate entities but parts of a whole to which we also belong. This experience of connection is more than an idea. It is a perception that transforms us. In the silence of consciousness, we understand that the life flowing within us is the same life pulsing in the veins of every being. Nature is not something external, it is an extension of who we are, and each element is a reflection of our own existence. Just as a wave is part of the ocean, we too are part of this cosmic vastness, where all beings are interconnected by invisible threads of energy and consciousness. Universal consciousness reminds us that spiritual awakening is not just an individual path but a collective one. Expanding our perception beyond itself, we start to see the world's beauty and pain as aspects of the same experience. In this state of unity, deep compassion for all life arises within us, for we understand that another's suffering is also ours, that the joy of a distant being resonates within our own heart. But is it possible to live daily with this awareness of unity? Even in moments of disconnection and routine, this perception can remain alive, like a gentle flame. Every act of kindness, every gesture of respect for nature and others, reminds us that we are part of a vast web of life, a cosmic consciousness that transcends time and space. And gradually we begin to live more consciously, not just for ourselves but for the good of the whole. Silence is a living presence, a fertile space where the mind finds rest and the soul reconnects with the essential. Amid the whirlwind of thoughts, emotions, and noise that surround us, silence is like a serene harbor, a place where we can simply be without hurry, without distractions. It is not merely the absence of words, it is an invitation to depth, an opportunity to listen to the more subtle layers of our consciousness. Practices like meditation, conscious breathing, and mindfulness are doors that lead us to this inner silence. With each inhale and exhale, we become more present, more attuned to what truly matters. When we breathe with awareness, we are not only nourishing the body but also feeding the mind with calm and clarity. Meditation, in turn, helps us observe our thoughts without clinging to them, like leaves floating on a river. As we let go, we discover that the silence we seek outside is actually within us. Silence transforms the way we see the world. It teaches us to listen deeply, to observe with full attention, to understand the value of each moment. In silence, we find the answers we sought in words. There is a subtle and intense power in this stillness that reconnects us with the present and makes us realize that life is vaster than the incessant thoughts our mind creates. Have you ever experienced silence as a space of discovery? When we cultivate it, we find it as a constant presence, a background of serenity that embraces and transforms us. The more we nurture this practice, the more it becomes part of us, and spiritual awakening ceases to be a distant goal, becoming a living reality, a way of life that unfolds with each breath, each second of stillness. Spiritual awakening is neither a straight line nor a fixed path. It is made of moments, brief flashes of light that arise and fade, leaving a subtle mark within us. These flashes of awareness are small instants of clarity that interrupt the automatic rhythm of life, allowing us to come closer to the truth about ourselves. Sometimes, these flashes are so intense that we feel transformed, as if touched by something sacred. Other times, they are gentler, like a soft whisper reminding us of the presence of something greater. These moments of awareness come and go, like tides advancing and retreating. They reveal that spiritual awakening is not a permanent state to be reached but a practice that renews itself constantly. Each flash of presence is an opportunity to rediscover who we are, to connect more deeply with our essence. But like the fleeting glow of a shooting star that quickly disappears in the sky, these instants of clarity remind us of the importance of patience and persistence. The spiritual path is built with continuous practice, with the daily return to what is essential. Have you noticed these flashes of awareness in your life? They are those moments when, suddenly, everything seems to make sense, when time seems to dissolve and we are fully in the now. Then they pass and we return to worries, thoughts, and routines, but with a new perspective, as if a small part of us had awakened, expanding our space of awareness a little more. These flashes of light are reminders that we are on a cyclical journey, a process that requires care, patience, and self-love. To awaken spiritually, then, is to live attentively and openly, embracing each flash of awareness as a gift. With each cycle, we become more sensitive, more connected, and life gains a new brightness, a new depth that reveals itself even in the simplest moments. When spiritual awakening begins to take root within us, it subtly yet powerfully influences not only our mind but also our body and relationships. The peace we cultivate inwardly reflects in our health, our gestures, and even in how we relate to the world. Full awareness has the power to harmonize our whole being, promoting a well-being that goes beyond the physical body. It integrates mind and body, connecting each cell to the serenity that awakening brings. Our body responds directly to our mental and emotional state. When we cultivate presence, we reduce stress, which is often the source of physical and mental imbalances. Inner calm soothes the nervous system, regulates breathing, and eases tensions that might otherwise accumulate within us as invisible weight. This inner peace translates into health, for as we embrace silence and clarity, the body responds with more energy, vitality, and balance. But this transformation does not stop at our individual being, it also extends to our relationships. When we are conscious, we become more sensitive to others, perceiving others' needs, pains, and joys with greater empathy and compassion. Our interactions are no longer conditioned by ego or expectations. They become genuine encounters where we can be present for others with authenticity. This awakening allows for healthier, more loving relationships, where communication is not merely words but presence. How would the world be if everyone lived with this awareness? If every gesture, every word, were guided by an intention of peace and genuine connection? Perhaps the answer lies in how each of us chooses to conduct our own interactions and care for ourselves. And by living this transformation, we silently inspire those around us to walk the same path, a path that nourishes both soul and body, creating a cycle of well-being that transcends the individual and embraces humanity as a whole. Within us lies a point of stillness, a presence that observes everything that happens without being touched by the drama or the incessant flow of thoughts. This presence is the observing self, the one who witnesses our feelings, our ideas, and even our pains, yet remains unchanged, like a serene lake that reflects the sky above but is not disturbed by passing clouds. This inner observer is our purest essence, a state of consciousness that transcends identity and ego. When we begin to live from this observing self, we perceive that we are not just the sum of memories, labels, and desires that the ego creates. We discover that we are the awareness that embraces all this, that observes reactions and stories without confusing itself with them. And then, a new lightness arises in the way we exist. We can experience intense emotions, we can have challenging thoughts, but we are not swept away by them. They flow before us and we welcome them without judgment, without attachment. This practice of observing without judging is a path to live as pure awareness, allowing us to experience life more broadly and freely. Each moment brings the opportunity to choose, to respond rather than react, to embrace rather than resist. And so, spiritual awakening manifests not as an abrupt change but as a gentle blossoming, an opening that allows us to be fully present with all that life brings. Who are we, then, when we live as the observing self? We are a space of serenity, unbound by the dramas of ego, a field of consciousness where everything can be seen with clarity. It is an invitation to live in peace, to free ourselves from the weight of illusions, and to discover that true awakening lies in simply being here and now, without wanting to be more than the essence that has always been with us. In the end, we understand that living as the observing self is living lightly, fully, and deeply connected to life. The present is the only moment that truly exists, and within it lies all the potential for spiritual awakening. On our journey, we often seek answers, elevated states, and future goals, but the secret of awareness is in the simplicity of fully living the now. This moment, this very instant, is where we find the essence of awakening, for it is in the now that we can experience life purely, free from past stories and future anxieties. Practicing the now is an act of surrender, an openness to what is before us without expectations or resistance. Living in the present, we begin to see the beauty and depth hidden in the simplest details. The touch of a breeze, the distant sound of a falling leaf, the rhythm of our own breath. Each instant becomes an invitation to experience life with serene intensity, where each gesture, each look, carries the freshness of something new, unexplored. Anchoring ourselves in the now, the weight of thoughts and worries gradually dissolves, making room for deep and genuine peace. Have you noticed how the now is always within reach, ready to embrace us with fullness? There is nothing to achieve, nothing to conquer, only a presence unfolding every second, a presence that envelopes us and reminds us that awakening is not a distant goal. It is a way of being, of inhabiting the world with simplicity and presence. As we live this practice of the now, our relationship with the world changes. Spiritual awakening ceases to be an ideal and becomes a way of life, a constant flow of awareness that transforms our vision of ourselves and everything around us. And so, we understand that each moment is an opportunity to connect with the sacred within us and everything surrounding us, reminding us that true awakening is always present, here and now. If this message resonated with you, like this video and subscribe to the channel to keep following our content on self-knowledge and spirituality. Share this video with anyone you think could benefit from this message and leave your thoughts and reflections in the comments below.